So I just read the Arabian Nights, or 1001 Arabian Nights. There's a collection of stories from the Arabic world, I guess you'd call it. This edition's not that big. It doesn't contain all of them. I mean, there's supposedly 1001. This edition also contains the tales of Sinbad the Sailor and Aladdin and the Magical Lamp, which are not supposed to be in the Arabian Nights tales from what I understand, but they're still sort of from that Arabic world, so English translations tend to stick them in. So the premise for this is that there's this sultan whose wife cheats on him, so he has her killed, and then he never trusts any women at all. But I mean, he still sort of wants women. So he marries a new girl every night, and in the morning he has her killed. So he's basically just sleeping with a new girl every night. But then he has her killed so that she doesn't have a chance to cheat on him. Talk about insecure. And so, he's Sultan, he does this, and he's just like killing off girls every night until the Grand Vizier's daughter is like, we've got to put a stop to this. I know how to do it. And the Vizier's like, how can you possibly do this? She's like, let me marry him. It's like, no way. You marry him, you're going to get killed the next morning. I'm going to be the one that will have to kill you. And she's like, please do it. I have a plan. He finally relents, and so he lets his daughter marry the Sultan. And even the Sultan's like, whoa, the Vizier's daughter, Mr. Vizier, what are you doing? Like, I'm gonna have to get you to kill her in the morning so she doesn't cheat on me. And the Vizier's like, I know, but she begged me, and it is what it is. So at night, when they're gonna go to sleep, the daughter, the now wife, the daughter of the Vizier, is, hey, it's my last night on Earth. Can you please let me sleep with my sister? Let my sister stay with us. She's great. You'll love her. I just don't want to be away from my sister. He's like, yeah, sure, fine. And so she tells her sister, like, hey, here's the plan. Before dawn, wake me up and ask me to tell you one of my stories again. And so she does. Before dawn, the sister wakes up the other sister, says, hey, tell me one of your stories. And so the sister asks the Vizier, hey, can I tell one of these stories? And he's like, yeah, go ahead. And so she tells a story. And that story doesn't quite get to the end before dawn. And she's like, Mr. Sultan, please don't kill me, and the next night we can finish the story. And he's so intrigued about the story that he allows her to stay alive for the following day. And that's 1001 Arabian Nights is this sort of a stories within stories that lead into another story and lead into another story. And it's stories all the way down that keep her alive for 1001 nights. And I don't know how it ends. I mean, I read the whole book, but at the end of this, there is no sort of conclusion to that starting story. But presumably he comes to the conclusion that, hey, I found a girl who's not going to cheat on me, and she also tells great stories. So a lot of these are stories that lead into other stories, or stories that will, within those stories themselves, have other stories where the characters will tell story. It's many different layers of stories. And I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to pick out one that I really liked, and one that sort of captures a lot of the things that many of the other stories have. So the one I really liked was the story of Ali Kolia, merchant of Baghdad. So this guy Alia, he's got no kids, he's got no wife, he's living a good life, he's a merchant, he's making money, but he's Muslim. He has to go on pilgrimage to Mecca at least once in his life. And he's been putting it off, and he's like, okay, I finally have to go to Mecca. And this isn't just like, take a few weeks off, head over to Mecca. This is like a huge journey. So he has to sell everything, shut down his shop, and all the money that he gets from sort of liquidating all his assets, it's 1,000 gold pieces. He hides that in a vase and puts some olives on top, so it just looks like a vase of olives. And he goes to this other merchant who he considers a good friend, and he's like, hey, I'm heading to Mecca. Do you mind if I keep these olives with you? Like, I just need somewhere to store them while I'm gone. He's like, yeah, sure. Here's the key to my storehouse. Put it in a place, and I won't touch it. It will be there when you come back. And he's like, great. So he loads up with a bunch of other merchandise because he's still a merchant. So he's going to head to Mecca, and he's also going to sell and make some money on his way. So he gets to Mecca, he does his pilgrimage, and he lays out all his wares, and some people are walking by, and they're like, you'd make a lot more money if you were actually selling in Cairo. And he's like, oh man, yeah, Cairo, that'd be so cool. So he heads over to Cairo, makes a whole bunch of money there, and then he's really excited and looking forward to heading back to Baghdad. He hears some people talking about Aleppo. There's this caravan heading to Aleppo, which is on the way to Baghdad. So he's like, oh man, I can't wait to get to Aleppo. Or maybe it's Damascus. Either way, he's waiting for the caravan to depart. So he's going around Cairo, checking out the pyramids, doing stuff you would do in Egypt. Then he goes to Damascus, and he goes to Aleppo and Mosul, and he's almost back to Baghdad, and he meets these Persian merchants who are like, hey, you got to come with us. We're heading to India. It's going to be so cool. We're going to make lots of money, and India, it'll be great. So he's like, oh yeah, sure, let's go to India. So he ends up going. It's neat because it's sort of the story's sort of delineating the bounds of this world, this caliphate. Whereas far west as Egypt and south as Mecca and far east as even to India and Persia. So it takes them about 7 years, this pilgrimage, and the guy who he left the vase with did not expect him to be gone 7 years. So he's like, he's probably dead. It's been 7 years. And his wife's like, oh man, I really want some olives. And then he remembers, oh yeah, I have that vase of olives. You know what? I'm going to go get that vase. We're going to eat those olives. His wife's like, actually, you probably shouldn't do that. Like, those technically aren't yours. And he's like, nah, the guy's dead. Don't worry about it. So he opens the vase up. Of course, the olives are all rotten. It's been 7 years. So he's like digging through them, like, is there any that are good? And he finds all the gold. He's like, wow, 1,000 gold pieces. Awesome. Jackpot. He's like, well, just in case he ever comes back, he empties the vase out, throws away the rotten olives, keeps all the gold, and fills it back up with a whole bunch of fresh olives and seals it up. But he's like, he's dead. He's never coming back. Of course, a month later, he does show up. And the merchant shows up. He's like, hey, you saw that vase? He's like, yeah, here it is. And he opens it up, and it's full of all these olives. He's like, where's the gold? And the other guy's like, well, there was no gold. What are you talking about, gold? And they have a big confrontation, which is quite public. And he eventually is like, basically, I'm going to sue you. Like, we're getting the law involved. So it goes to the courts, and the judge basically says, you have to swear a solemn oath that you did not steal the gold. And the guy says, like, I solemnly swear that I didn't. He's like, well, if he swore it, then, case closed. He's innocent. So the other guy, he's really bummed out. But he's like, I'm going to appeal straight to the Sultan. I'm going to the Supreme Court with this one. So he writes a letter to the Sultan. The Sultan gets it and is like thinking about it. And that night, the Sultan, because in all these stories, the Sultan always dresses up like a commoner and goes out, walks around Baghdad, just sort of sees how the city is. And he comes across these children who, because this sort of the scandal of these merchants accusing each other is the hot topic of the day. These kids are reenacting the trial. And what the kids come to the conclusion is that, hey, those olives that are, like, open up the vase, what's inside the vase? Fresh olives. How come the olives are fresh? There's no way they could be fresh after 7 years, right? Boom. Merchant is condemned. He stole the gold. And the Sultan's like, geez, these kids are really smart. That's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? And so the next day he gets that kid who played the judge and the two merchants to come to the palace, and he asks the kid, like, hey, do that same thing you did when you were playing with your friends. And he does, and it's revealed that the olives are fresh, and there's no way they could be fresh. And so the guy admits, yeah, I stole the gold. And then he's, of course, executed. Guy gets his gold back, and they all live happily ever after, except for the guy who got killed, but he stole, so too bad. So yeah, I really like that one just because of the geographical reach, but also it's got the Sultan, and it's got the kids being very wise, and it's a cool story. So the other story I want to talk about is one that it feels like it's multiple stories in one. It doesn't have like an introduction, a climax, and then a conclusion, and sort of a moral to it. It goes, and then it changes setting and pace and characters, and it goes all over the place. So this one is Nuruddin and the Fair Persian. So in this one we have a king. He's got two viziers, kind of the good vizier and the bad vizier. And these viziers, one of the bad one, he's really jealous of the good one. And everyone loves the good one. All the people, they love him. He think he's great. And they're talking about slaves and like women slaves, sex slaves. And the Sultan's like, I want the best possible slave. Like, go out and find me the absolute best slave. He says to the good vizier. He gives him 10,000 gold pieces. He's like, go out, find me one. And so the vizier goes out, and eventually he finds this girl that's like perfect. She's the ultimate slave. And he buys her for 10,000 pieces. And the slave merchant's like, all right, you should probably keep her at your house for like a week or so. She's been traveling a lot. Clean her up, send her to the Sultan, he'll love her. So he does this. But of course, this vizier has a son, Nuruddin, who he's like, keep this boy away from the fair Persian, the slave. Who's the poor girl. She doesn't even get a name in this story. She's literally just called the Fair Persian. But of course, Nuruddin, he's young. He sees this beautiful woman. He wants her for himself. And so he goes to her, and he manages to break into her room and tells her, oh, actually, my father changed his mind. He's not giving you to the Sultan. He's giving you to me. And so they do, and this all comes out, and the vizier is super upset. He's like, what am I going to do? How dare you, son? And he's like, just give her to me in marriage and tell the Sultan that she wasn't actually good enough and you're going to find someone else. And the mother's like, I'll sell some of my jewelry. We can make up the 10,000. And so the father makes his son promise, hey, this slave is now your wife. Don't you ever sell her or leave her or get rid of her. You stick with her for life. Like, you caused all this trouble for her. You better stick with her. And he's like, yeah, of course I will. Promptly, the father then dies. And the son, now free to do whatever he wants, inherits his father's estate and has tons of money. And this is where the story kind of changes. So it goes from the story of these two viziers to a story of the slave girl to the story of now Nuruddin badly handling his father's finances. So he's constantly partying. He has all these friends over all the time, and anytime his friends ask him for something, he's giving it to them, whether it be land, palaces, mansions, whatever. He's just giving it away. And eventually his sort of housekeeper comes to him and is like, look, I've been trying to tell you this forever and you keep ignoring me, but you're broke. And if you don't pay me right now, I'm hitting the road. And his friends all overhear this and they're like, oh, I actually have to go home now. And they all sort of leave him. And he's like kind of upset. And his wife, the fair Persian, who's super smart, is like, I told you this was gonna happen. You had to manage your money better. But he's like, don't worry, my friends will bail me out. I got so many friends. And of course, all of his friends ignore him and don't let him into their homes, and so he's sort of abandoned. So then it switches, like the moral of the story is now be good with money, like don't abandon your friends. The people who you think are your friends might not actually be your friends if they're only your friends for money. And so the slave, well, his wife is like, hey, your father bought me for $10,000. You know, it's been a few years, it's probably not worth that anymore, but you should go sell me again, and then you can get some money and sort of restart your life. And even though he swore to his father he wasn't going to do that, he's like, yeah, fine. So he goes to the slave merchants and tries to sell her. And now the evil vizier, so remember there were two viziers. The good vizier was this guy's father. The evil vizier sees this girl and is like, wow, remember the Sultan wanted a super good slave? Well, this slave looks super good. I'm going to buy her. And because I guess he doesn't want his slave wife sold to this evil vizier, because then he'll be found out that he sort of kept the girl for himself instead of his father giving it to the Sultan. He makes a plan with the slave merchant that he's going to step in and be like, actually, I never wanted to sell her. I just said it because I was mad at her. And so he does this. He also ends up beating the evil vizier, like, get your hands off my wife. And the evil vizier runs back to the Sultan, and all beaten and bloody, and is like, look, dude, the son of the other vizier did this to me, and he's got a wife that was supposed to be the slave girl for you. I've been saying Sultan, haven't I? I mean king. This isn't in Baghdad. This is like one of the kings under the caliph. Anyways, when the king finds out about this, he's like, that's it. Send a whole bunch of guys. We're gonna arrest Nuruddin. We're gonna burn his house to the ground. I've had enough of this guy. And a servant gets word to Nuruddin before the king's men come. And so he and his wife, the fair Persian, take off for Baghdad. So then again, the story changes. They're now in Baghdad. They don't know what to do. They have no money. They're sort of lost. And they see this beautiful garden, and there's a sofa there. So they go and they lay down on the sofa to sleep. And then the person guarding it comes up and he's like, hey, you guys can't stay here. This is the Sultan's. This is the Caliph's garden. Like, you guys need to get out. And they're like, oh, we're so sorry. We just got here. And he's like, oh, okay, fine. Here, come on. I'll get you something to eat. So he takes them into one of the Sultan's rooms that whenever the Sultan's there, it's like lit up with a million candles and whatnot. So everyone can see, hey, the Sultan's in there. And he's giving them a meal, and Nuruddin's got a bit of money. So he gives it to the guy, and he's like, hey, go buy some wine, some food. And the guy's like, hey, I'm Muslim, I do not touch wine. He's like, come on, just get some wine. So he does, and eventually they convince him to start drinking. So the guy gets super drunk, and they end up lighting all the candles, and then the Sultan's walking by, and he's like, why is that room lit up? Who's in that room? So meanwhile, Nuruddin, this guard guy, and his beautiful fair Persian wife, she's singing and playing instruments. They're having this great feast and like partying, and they're having a great time. And the Sultan, you know, being the Sultan, what's he gonna do? He dresses up as if he's a fisherman. He manages to get some fish, and he goes in and he's like, oh guys, I brought you some fish for the party. And they're like, great, cool. And he's like, can I stay and listen to this girl? She's so beautiful, she's so perfect. I love the music and everything. Oh, she's great. And Nuruddin, because this is, I guess, what he did with his other friends, that whenever someone wanted something, he would just give it away. And he's like, hey, you want her? You can have her. Which, the whole thing started because he wanted her so badly, and now he's literally just giving her away to some random fisherman, who's actually the Sultan in disguise, but he doesn't know that. Really weird. And so the Sultan eventually reveals himself and is like, hey, I'm the Sultan. What the heck's going on here? And Nuruddin tells him the whole story, how he's the son of the vizier from this king, and all the troubles he's had with his wife and his friends and his money and everything. And then the Sultan's like, for whatever reasons, like, I like you, kid. Here, I'm going to write a letter to the king of the place that he's from and tell him that you're going to be the new king, and that the fair person's going to be your wife. And he's like, wow, great, thanks so much. You're giving me a kingdom for like no reason. I broke into your palace and now I'm the king. Okay, sure. So he rushes back home to his old kingdom and gives a letter to the king. And I mean, it's signed with the caliph's name, and you can't ignore the caliph. Like, he says that this guy's now the king, then this guy's now the king. The king, looking at it, he shows the bad vizier this, and he's like, what the heck do I do? And the bad vizier sort of rips the top off that has the caliph's name, burns it, and is like, well, it's not actually signed by the caliph, so technically we don't have to do it. Let's throw him in the dungeon. Which, like, that's gonna help you get away with it. So whatever, they throw Noradin in the dungeon, and months pass by until the evil vizier's like, hey king, like, let's just execute this guy. And he's like, what, the guy's still kicking around? Yeah, we'll execute him. So they're gonna cut his head off, but at the last moment, a whole bunch of horsemen come in, and it's the caliph himself with the fair Persian, and he's like, hey, how come you haven't put this guy in charge yet? I told you to. And so in the end, somehow Noradin becomes king, the fair Persian becomes queen, bad vizier gets his head cut off, and like, what the heck was the moral of the story? Noradin's an awful guy. He gave his wife away to a fisherman. His wife was a slave that he stole for himself from his father, who was going to give it to the sultan. The bad vizier got killed, I guess, but was he even really that bad? Like, I guess he was jealous of the good vizier, but in the end, I don't know. That one was kind of wild. Yeah, and there's many other stories. A lot of them involve shape-shifting and jinn. Just to go over the tales of Sinbad the Sailor. So there's this really poor guy who walks by the super rich palace, and he's like, why couldn't I be as rich as the guy who owns this palace? Life is unfair. And the guy who owns the palace is Sinbad the Sailor, this old man who's like, hey, come inside and I'll tell you a story. So he brings him in and tells him the story of his first voyage, gives him some money, comes back the next day, second voyage, so on and so forth. Tells him 7 stories of his 7 voyages, which are all involve him going out to sea, becoming shipwrecked, something weird and magical happening, and in the end, after suffering and going through a whole lot of trauma, he gets a lot of money and gets back home and is super rich. And so the story is like, hey, I'm rich, yeah, but I went through a lot to get this wealth. Most rich people cannot say. The story of Aladdin and the lamp is way different than the Disney version that we're all familiar with. First of all, it takes place in China, like Aladdin's a Chinese guy. So basically in it, we have Aladdin, this Chinese guy, again, very weird. His uncle shows up, or this guy shows up and is like, hey, I'm your long lost uncle. How you doing? He's like, what? Sure, you're my uncle. Okay. He's like, hey, come with me. I know where there's like some treasure we should get. Cool, let's go get treasure. Takes him to a place, manages to do some magical spells, the ground opens up, and inside's a whole bunch of treasure. And he tells Aladdin, hey, go down in there, get this lamp. I don't care about anything else. Don't touch anything else. Just get the lamp, give it to me, and then we're good. He gives him a ring, and he's like, here, this ring will help you. So he gets the lamp, and he's heading back out, and the guy's like, give me the lamp, give me the lamp. And he's like, I'll give you the lamp once I get out. And he's like, no, you gotta give me the lamp now. He's like, I'm not gonna give you the lamp. And so the magician, who's like not his uncle, is like, grrr, I can only get the lamp if someone willingly gives it to me. I'm so upset. And he shuts the entrance and traps Aladdin in this sort of underground treasure cave. And Aladdin's distraught. He's stuck underground. What is he going to do? But he has this ring. Now, the weird thing is the magical ring he rubs, and a genie comes out. And is like, hey, what do you want? And he's like, I want to get out of here. So the genie's like, sure, boom, pops him out. The lamp also does the same thing as the ring. So he's got a lamp and a ring. I don't know why the evil uncle wanted the lamp so much if he already had the ring that did the same thing. But then he gave the ring to Aladdin, willingly just gave it away, and then he didn't have the ring or the lamp. Now Aladdin has both. And so Aladdin and his mother plays as much of a role in this as he does. They use the lamp to get lots of wealth and prosper, and eventually get the hand of the princess in marriage. So Aladdin marries the princess. So the magician finds out, wait, Aladdin's alive and he married the princess. So he's like, well, I'm gonna get back at that Aladdin. For whatever reason, he has a whole bunch of lamps, brand new lamps, and he's like, new lamps for old, new lamps for old. He's like going up and down the street asking people to give them their old lamps, and he'll give them new ones. And Aladdin's wife hears this. Aladdin's away at the time, and she's like, oh, that's so weird. Why is that guy doing that? Hey, we've got that old lamp. Like, go give the guy the old lamp. We'll get a new one too. Of course, it's the magical lamp. So willingly giving the lamp away, the magician then gets the lamp. And he's like, haha, I now have the lamp. So then he teleports the entire palace and the princess into Africa, and he's like, whoa, she's mine now, I win. Sultan's like, where's my daughter? What the heck, Aladdin? If you don't get my daughter back, I'm gonna kill you. And Aladdin's like, give me some time, I'll go find her. So Aladdin, who still has the magical ring, rubs the ring. The genie comes to him and he's like, hey, take me to wherever my wife is. Poof, he's now in Africa, no longer in China. Weird that the whole thing takes place in China. And he meets with his wife and he's like, hey, poison the magician, kill him, dead. So she does, she poisons him, he dies, and then Aladdin's like, I win. Gets the lamp back off the dead guy, which if the rule of the lamp is you have to willingly give it from one owner to the next. But if you kill the previous owner, you get to keep it. Like, why didn't the magician, when Aladdin wouldn't give it to him in the first place, just kill Aladdin and take it? And why didn't he? Lots of questions. Anyway, so Aladdin and his wife, they go back to China, and you think, oh, they live happily ever after. No. Yeah, so the evil magician has a younger brother who's even more eviler than him, who dresses up like a holy woman and tricks Aladdin's wife, the princess, into desiring a roc's egg. So this magical bird, this roc. He's like, man, this house would be so great if only had a roc's egg in the middle there. And so after he's gone, the princess summons a genie and is like, hey, can you please give me a roc egg to hang up in my house? And the genie's really offended by this. And he refers to the roc as his master. He's like, you wretch, you want me to fetch my master and hang it up for you? How dare you? But actually, it's not your fault, because I know that this woman told you to do this, but it's not actually a woman. It's actually the evil magician's younger, eviler brother that told you to do this. But whatever, peace out, I'm gone, and disappears. And the princess tells Aladdin this, and then Aladdin summons the holy woman. It's the evil brother magician. Kills him, and they live happily ever after. Eventually, the emperor of China dies, and Aladdin becomes emperor of China, and they all live happily ever after. Very weird story. I think Disney actually made this one better. But anyways, that is just a taste of the 1001 Arabian Nights. They're all kind of like kids' stories, I would say. It's something that you could like read your kids a story before bed. They're not really weird. They're kind of magical, kind of cool because they're set in a totally different world, like 9th century or 10th century Western Asia. Pretty cool. Some are good, some are bad, some are weird. The Arabian Nights.